This is Playing Pretend, your creative bestie's favorite podcast, with me, Catherine Rossler. Hello, interwebs. Hello, internet. So this week I want to talk about rejection as redirection and making shitty art. I'm also going to talk a bit about Art Basel Miami, which I went to a few years ago. But first, a little life update. So I guess if you're new here, Playing Pretend is like the personal artist, visual artist journal, creative journal of myself. And every week I just share a little bit of like personal updates as well as things going on, I guess, in my own life. But I always try and relate them to creativity and like the art space world, if that makes sense. I'm definitely seeing now I could probably make a better definition of what this podcast is for. But yeah, it's basically just a personal journal of a visual artist or a creative in general, because I'm still redefining myself all the time. So, little personal update. I am actually absolutely so tired today. It's the weekend after Easter, so had some stuff with family. I ate some things that were a bit upsetting to my system. I went on a really, really long walk, which was lovely, but I think it also pushed me past my capacity. So today I had a bit of a headache. I'm also about to get my period, so all these things are wrapped up in one another. Yeah, I feel like I'm grounding myself a bit better since launching this podcast, or at least since starting to share this podcast online. I feel like it really threw me off course a little bit in my maybe own emotional life. I think it's a very jarring thing to start sharing your opinions and feel super vulnerable, but I feel like I'm leaning more into it. I feel like I'm really finding my path with the podcast, which is great. Today, so I actually imagined this like years ago, but I thought, it'd be so cool to like have a podcast where I could like drink non-alcoholic beverages. So I had opened this over the weekend on Easter. I don't normally drink NA beverages throughout the week, but maybe I'll make it a thing. So I think it's called Gia, and this is Gia Ginger. And I love that they have these non-alcoholic beverages in cans, but honestly, they taste so much better when they are on ice. I really think that's how they're meant to be drank. And often too, like mixed with other things. I know when I first made a cocktail with this stuff, I think it was like mixing it with like tart cherry juice, and that was really good. I didn't have any like mixers that I wanted to mix it with, so I'm just having it on ice. And it is quite spicy, so that's what I like about it. I like when the NA beverages, it tastes that I'm having something that's more than just plain sugar or something that's gonna destroy my sugar intake. Anyways, it's good, and I like that it's super spicy. So the topic of today, rejection as redirection. I've talked, I think this is like a really common thing that people talk about. I talk about it in the course I'm doing with M on the Brain. I've read about it in books. I think I was first introduced into some sort of idea when I was in 2020, when I was a part of Enactus, and like the fail forward mindset and attitude. And redirection, or rejection as redirection, really speaks to what I talked about a few weeks ago. Whatever you believe is what you believe. And a lot of life is our perspective. And you can get rejected, as I know I have many times in my past, and take it as a negative thing, take it as like really on your heart, and take it to be super personal, which of course I know I have done that in the past, and sometimes that is part of the process. But as with anything, if you look at it with a different perspective, it can really fuel your growth. So, what have I been rejected from recently? Many jobs that I've been rejected from. Applied for an MFA, didn't get it. I always apply for art calls and things. I'd say 99% of the time I'm like rejected, and I'm applying to them often. A lot of the time I'm spending a lot of time on the applications as well. And I think what I've taken that to mean recently for me is that those pathways aren't meant for me. Like whatever is rejecting you is not meant for you. And it truly is just course correcting. It's like your life course correcting you on the correct path towards what you are actually here for, the path that you're actually supposed to be on. Not just like in the work world. I've been rejected many times, like in relationships, art applications, with the work. In like so many ways, I think we're rejected. And rejection, evolutionarily, it's seen as like it's a bad thing, because if you're rejected, then you don't fit in with your social group. And previously, if you didn't fit in with your social group, that could be detrimental to your life, because we are social creatures and beings, and we needed that support, especially when we didn't have a lot of like the luxuries that we have today. But reframing rejection in your mind, I think, is super beneficial for like every area of your life. And I want to share this story. So back in 2022, funny enough, this was actually exactly when I had caught COVID the last time, and since when I've been experiencing these long COVID systems. But I had gone to Art Basel. I had COVID, and then I think it was like maybe 10 days later or something, I wasn't testing for it, positive for it anymore. And so I was like, okay, I'm gonna go. I had already booked the trip, end up going. And there, when Art Basel it's like one of the biggest art shows in North America, and there's like the main show, but then there's all these other satellite fairs that go around it as well. Big satellite fairs, but then also like small creators and like putting on things, bunch of DJ shows. Like it's honestly wild. And even when you go into like one of the fairs, you are overwhelmed with the amount of art that you can see. Like it is so crazy, the amount of art that is on display. And I think before going into this, I really thought that I was like, I love all art. I love everything that everyone makes. But it started to really like refine my like criticism and my critique of like what I like and what I don't like. It was like overwhelmingly exhausting. So I would have to be like, no, like that's not worth my time. I don't like that much. No, don't like that. But when I saw something I really did like, I would spend that time to like go further and engage with that. And I mean, on the flip side of that, as being an artist, as when you're putting your art and your creations on display, it can often feel like nobody is looking and like nobody likes what you're making, especially if you're not making sales or nobody's buying your art, or you like worked really hard on something and you love it, but like somebody else doesn't. And I think the fact of the matter is, though, is that somebody out there does like what you're doing. It is meant for like whatever you're creating, somebody is meant to see. It might not be, it's not going to be everybody, and I don't think it should be. If you're making art for everybody, then it's going to be for nobody. And I think that goes the same with when you're saying anything. Like in the live call today for I'm on the Brain, she was talking about, like with what you say, like even with what I'm saying now, it's like you can agree with what I'm saying or you can disagree with what I'm saying. And either way, like somebody, like no matter what it is that you're saying, like somebody is going to agree with it and somebody isn't. Same with your art. Not everybody is going to like the art or whatever it is that you create, but it's also not meant for everybody. It's only meant for the people that are meant to see it. And I also personally think like when art disturbs people, when what you create disturbs people, I also think that is part of what it was meant to be. I don't think all art should be, I guess what I've realized, especially at that time, was that you shouldn't love all art. Like not everything is going to be for you, and that's completely okay. That is like part of what makes creativity, like it's not going to fit into everybody's, like it's not going to fit into what everybody likes. It also reminds me of like, so like and I heard this somewhere, I can't remember where, but like probably also in M on the Brain, because that's just a lot of my life at the moment. But we're wired, each of us is wired differently. So, I think this was in the book, Your Brain on Art. Each of us was wired differently, and there's billions of neurons in our brains, and the way that everybody is wired, like different people are gonna like different things. Like what I like is gonna be different from what you like, because we are literally wired differently. So the art that I make isn't gonna be for everybody. It's gonna be made, and then the people that are wired a certain way, it will, make them feel a certain way. And there is, I think, a lot of art people will tell me, oh, I love this, or it's cool. And just because they don't buy it or they don't, further engage with it in some way, doesn't mean that they don't like it. And I think also that, I guess that's a whole nother subject of like, who is going to buy your art, like finding those people. And that's still a journey that I'm on, and I'm still discovering of like, okay, who are the people that like what it is that I'm going to make? It's also interesting too. So with rejection is redirection, I think it also comes back to the process itself. You're not going to like everything that you make. You're not going to like all the ideas that you come up with. And sometimes when you execute them, you might like the idea at first, but when you execute it, it's not what you imagine it to be, or you have this idea, you don't like it at first, and then it grows over time. And I think those relationships always evolve and change as well. And this comes back to the statement, I know I've shared this, and I know other people have shared this too, but like, you got to make bad art, you got to make shitty art, you got to go through the process. Just like with on this podcast, I'm figuring out every step of the way. You need to make in order to even discover what that next step is, what that next thing is going to be. Like if you look at like Matisse, I can't remember if I've mentioned it before, but like he's really known for like his bold abstract art cutouts, but I think he was an impressionist. Let me look that up. I'm horrible with art movements. Yeah, impressionism. So he also Fauvism, modernism, post-impressionism. But he's known for like certain styles, but when you look at his whole body of work, same with like Andy Warhol, when you look at their whole body of work, it's changed so much, and they've tried so many different things, and one thing they might just be stood out in what they've made. And those are, that's like the Campbell's soup. Everybody knows Andy Warhol's Campbell's soup works. And it's just interesting to like compare yourself, or like look at the histories and the stories of other creatives, and then look at what your own making, and then like, yeah, like not everything that they made was super well known or super well perceived, but they put in the reps. And I think that goes for whatever it is that you're doing in life. If you're, bodybuilding can be seen as like a creative art, or even just like working out in general, because you're working on your health, and you're putting like whatever it is that you're doing, by putting in the reps, by putting in that practice, that's how you get better and better. You don't get better by sitting and thinking about it, or by trying to be like, the next idea that I'm going to make is the best idea. I don't think that's how it works. You have to put in the effort to figure out what it is that is meant to be. And that rejection as redirection happens not just from, like I said, from other people rejecting you, but also from yourself in what you create. Like sometimes you'll make something and it's going to be totally shitty, but in order to get to like the next thing, you have to have made that shitty piece of art, or that shitty thing, whatever it is that you made. Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense. I know something that I'm currently I wouldn't say struggling, but I'm figuring out is, so I have a lot of acrylic paint, and I started painting with acrylic paint in 2020, and I have bought more of it. I'd say I bought the bulk of it between like 2020 and 2022, but I do want to start moving away from using acrylic paint. And in the realm of sustainability, using what you already have is the most sustainable choice. And so I'm like, do I use all my acrylic paint and then move on to exploring and making my own paint? That's really where I want to go. I want to try and make like 100% with reused materials. But, I think that's going to take time, and maybe I won't completely get there, but I really don't know until I'm like in that path and I'm figuring it out. Like I've been collecting from our kitchen scraps avocado shell, like the skins and pits, because those make some really beautiful dyes. I also recently, my cousin, she had us over for birthday, and then she sent us home with flowers, so I've been like pressing the flowers. And I really like, what else I collected a while ago, rusty nails from my family's cottage. I'm also interested, like I want to start exploring more outside and like doing foraging, but I think before I do that, I want to make sure that I'm following good practices when that's happening. I also really want to involve like litter cleanups in it, because whenever I'm going on walks, and I really do like litter cleanups or picking up litter, I want to involve that as well if I am foraging, to make sure that I'm also cleaning up after the earth around me. And I have all these ideas, and I think sometimes my ideas come at me super quickly, way quicker than I can execute them. And I'm kind of going through this process of like, okay, what was working, or like what didn't work? Where do I want to go? And what do I want to do next? And like stepping into that, and then kind of working my way through that. And I really, at the end of the day, it's like you're not going to know until you put it out there. Especially like if you think of musical artists or movies or whatever creative venture it is. And I've heard somebody said this before me, but you don't, like, whatever you make isn't yours. Like, it's not yours. It is made for for you to share with the world. So you really aren't the ultimate decision maker. And even if you make something that you love, it doesn't mean that it's going to be received and loved by other people. And you might make something that you utterly hate and people love it. Like it's this funny dynamic and thing that happens in life. And I think by reframing rejection or failure as redirection, I think that's like the most valuable lesson is your perception of that thing, whatever that rejection is in your own life. I love what Tyler, the creator, I've kind of been on a bit of an obsession with him at the moment, but his quote from that, I've read the documentary, it's like Cherry Bomb or something. I usually just make shit because it looks cool, but people's brains just interpret it in whatever way they were meant to, man. And I love that. I'm like, it's so true. Like I was saying with the neurons, it's like we're each wired differently, and you got to just make what you are gonna make, because like somebody's gonna love it or somebody's gonna interpret it in some way, and like you don't really have control over that. Like once it's released into the world, people are gonna think what they're gonna think, regardless of what control that you want to have over them. And if you're anything like me, you're desperately trying to control everything and all that is around you. But I think the ultimate thing that I'm learning over and over and over again is that the only thing that we have control over is our inner world. We don't have control over the outer world or other people or like what happens to us or things, but we do have control of the output that we have. You know, we have control over what it is that we create, what we choose to create, how we choose to create, how often, and how that evolves through us. And I just think that's like really, really beautiful. But yeah, so I guess my advice is to just keep making, keep creating. And as much as I say this is advice for you, this really is also for myself. I'm discovering new things all the time, and I'm really trying to work through the process instead of getting stuck and thinking like, oh, what should I do next? Because it's really easy to get distracted. I know I get distracted often. But yeah, just make what you gotta make shit that's cool. And honestly, if you're making shit, it is probably cool. Even if it's shitty, I still think it's cool. So thank you so much for listening. If you like this podcast, you can follow it at playingpretend.pod, or you can follow my personal Instagram at catherine.rossler. I'd love for you also to like check out my website. I've also got some, if you're in like the Toronto, GTA, Mississauga area, I've got some art classes that I'm hopefully going to be launching soon. Fingers crossed. We'll see how that goes. Yeah, if you like the pod, please give it a listen. Share it with a friend. Share it with your creative bestie who also loves creativity and wants some inspiration. And thank you so much for listening, and I'll talk to you next week.